All right, we'd like to welcome in now former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins, host of the Doug Collins podcast, sat on that House Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee as well. Congressman, great to see you.
It's good to see y'all as well.
Are you going to be tuning in to these primetime hearings this week?
I'll probably catch some of it. I mean, they want us to do it. They set it up in prime time. But what I've seen being a part of some of these kind of hearings in which they're, overhyping it. They brought in a producer for the hearings. The question is going to be is what kind of evidence they're presenting and how they present it. And there's a lot of questions about this committee. So it's going to be interesting to see what they attempt to do on Thursday night. You would think they would try to, quote, go big, but you never know with these kind of committees.
Well, I think they're trying to go big. Maybe that was the whole idea behind primetime hearings. But if people aren't going to watch it during the day, they're probably not going to watch it at night either. Also wanted to get your reaction real quick to some of these proposals that Jamie Raskin just floated out there, getting rid of the Electoral College. Some Democrats want to pack the court or impose term limits on Supreme Court justices. They say these things are relics of our past, Congressman.
Well, John, it's amazing to me that Jamie Raskin and several of the committee members, actually were ones who opposed electoral college votes in 2016 against Donald Trump and even back against H.W. Bush, some of the ones who have been there a while. It seems like if they ever have a problem, they just want to attack the Constitution and say it's old, it's outdated, we need to move forward. The realization is that the Constitution has served us well for this long. And to me, why are they dealing in voting issues here when they're supposed to be investigating what happened under their own premise of what happened at the Capitol on January 6th? Why all of a sudden all these conversations about voter suppression, which is a lie, especially in the state of Georgia and other places? Why are they dealing with that when the reality was that they're supposed to be investigating January 6th? We may be in for something we've not expected yet to see out of this committee, because they seem to be talking more about voters than they do anything else.
That's true. That is a wild one. What they plan to do, that they are dedicated to making these changes, and they'll find any possible vehicle to accomplish that. So maybe this is their opportunity, they think. One other thing we want to ask you about is, this, everyone knows this at home. Americans are struggling right now to make ends meet. They're worried about filling up their cars with gas. How high is inflation going to go? People are having trouble, making ends meet. But this is something that MSNBC correspondent Yamiche Alcindor talked about, one of the challenges facing this committee. Take a listen.
There are so many things that people are juggling between gas prices and inflation, baby formula, abortion, and the shootings that are happening. These lawmakers are going to try to now have a narrative to focus the country's attention to say, look at this thing, do not turn away, and understand that while all those other things are really, really important, the foundation of our country, what makes our country function, is the democracy that we have to protect.
Now, they call Yamiche a correspondent. She's really just a mouthpiece for Democrats there. But do you think that they can actually capture the imaginations, the attention? I thought that choice of word there, narrative, was an interesting one from her as well, because that's what this is. You mentioned the TV producer they're hiring. They're creating a story here.
They're having to, and I think that's become the issue, because we're, well over a year and a half into this now. They've been investigating it for a long, since the committee started, and now you have to capture the Americans' attention in the month of June, when you have holiday going on, vacations going on, and the fact that a lot of people now may be having to cancel those because of those high gas prices and inflation and things that are going on. So again, it's interesting to me. I'm always questioning, and I had this with Jerry Nadler during the impeachments, the faux impeachments that we had to deal with. Every time he wanted to bring it into prime time, it told me that they were trying to bolster their case by placement on TV, quote, to win over the American people. And the realization is Americans have a lot of other things to do, and it's going to be tough for them to break through. We'll see how they attempt to do it. But again, their messaging going into it seems to be sure scattered right now.
Yeah, and on Sunday you have Liz Cheney on national television talking about this quote-unquote conspiracy that Donald Trump was involved in, and then just yesterday we had the Justice Department announcing new indictments for Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boys founder, and some other members of Proud Boys as well. Even though Tarrio was not on the grounds during the Capitol breach, the DOJ say they are not only conspired to carry out an attack, but did so with the intention to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the U.S. government. Do you think these new charges have anything to do with the timing of the hearing this week?
They could be. I would put nothing by right now that seemingly with the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland. Again, you're seeing a lot of things that all of a sudden are coming up around this. And it is to me an event that was a finite event in time, and now you've had well over a year and a half to be investigating it. And look, folks who did wrong should be held accountable for it. Seems a long time to be dealing with some of these accounts and some of these issues that they've had literally thousands of hours of investigation into to be coming up with it now. I mean, it just seems strange to me that, like I said, with a finite event, that you're still coming up with things now that have been building for over a year and a half. It just happens to be the week of the hearing start.
It's interesting, too. We were talking about how well Democrats could hold America's attention for this stuff. But if you're looking at some polling like we have here from NBC News, and this is, again, from NBC News here, it's no longer in the majority, according to their poll numbers. It's now a minority of Americans believe Donald Trump was solely responsible for all this stuff. And, you can see the American public's interest waning, especially when they are focused on kitchen table issues like paying bills.
You can, and I have a definite proof of that. The Georgia primary election just 2 weeks ago, when I asked about the election integrity, I asked about a lot of things that were surrounding the previous election. It was number 6 or 7 on the list of people's priorities: inflation, gas prices, jobs. All that was important. And when you looked at the results of the election in Georgia, you saw some of that reflected. So I think there is a moving on. The committee's got to, if they want to have this hearing and want to capture, quote, America's attention, it has to be something pretty, I think, amazing, because a lot of people are ready to get on to the next election cycle, which we're currently in today with primaries and into November, and moving forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and that, too, I think has something to do with the timeline here. They're trying to stretch this committee all the way up into November as much as they can. That's their only story they can tell. They can't talk about the economy. They have to talk about this stuff. That's how they think they can win. Congressman Doug Collins, great to see you as always. Thanks for your time. We'll see you on the podcast.
It's always good to be with you. Take care.